We get out the car, and as we're heading into the theater, I get a phone call from Dino. And I pick it up, and he says, "Guess who's coming to the studio?" And I pause for a sec. I'm like, don't tell me Chris Webby's coming to the studio. Yeah, so basically over the past year, 2023, 2024, I've been super focused on TikTok and TikTok Live. You know, other platforms, you know, they still work for me, but I started noticing that my other platforms started drastically dropping. And for years, I was never on TikTok. Everybody kept convincing me, Furco, you gotta get on TikTok. You gotta get on TikTok. You make all these freestyle remix videos. TikTok will love it. I never believed in TikTok. I never thought that I was the type of creator for TikTok. I thought it was a dance platform at first. I thought you just get in front of the camera, you dance. But there was one day, you know, I started testing out TikTok. I started doing like the open verse challenges. And as soon as I reached 1,000 followers, I ended up going live on TikTok. And I ended up seeing a lot of people doing music reviews. And there was a time where me and my buddy Young Silence, we did a music review on Facebook one night, and it ended up getting over 100 people on there on Facebook. And boom, a year goes by, and you know, when I get the 1,000 followers on TikTok, and I'm like, how can I turn this into something that will draw people into the live? And I ended up thinking, why don't I try to do music reviews again? Because I started seeing it a lot on my For You page. So I started doing music reviews. You know, it obviously started slow. But every single day for the past year, I've been doing music reviews every single night on TikTok. And that's how I've been growing my community so big. TikTok Live is just an absolute beast. You know, it's something that constantly pushes you out on people's For You pages. And it's not just one time like Instagram. You go live on Instagram and it's a Furco Music is live, one time notification. But on TikTok, it's constant. It's around the world. You could see me on your For You page, scroll down 30 videos, and then Furco Music pops up again on live. It constantly puts you out. So I started seeing that I'm bringing in people globally, and this is what I gotta focus on. I wanna be a global artist, so this is what I gotta focus on. So I started doing music reviews every single day, building a community, and building a platform for number one, artists to come to network. Number two, a place where artists can get their music heard. But also number three, a place where people can receive feedback and knowledge to be able to make their song better, you know, before they go to final revisions, before they finalize that song. They can come to this place, get feedback, get knowledge from me, but not only me, also the audience, everybody that's in the room, and, you know, just get opinions and see what people think about their tracks. You know, whether that's a rough draft, whether that's a semi-mix, whether that's a fully mixed and mastered track, or that's already, you know, released. And the consistency of it, just going every single day, you know, I've been able to, you know, like I said, reach across the planet, but I've also been able to reach some bigger people also. I've been able to, you know, just 2 weeks ago, YBN Almighty J popped in my life. He sent me a song. He Cash Apped me for it, and I got to review his brand new song coming out in front of the audience. Cash Money Records, home of Drake, Lil Wayne, Birdman, Nicki Minaj, they pop in my life here and there. And then the biggest person who I've ever had in my life is Charlie Puth, one of the biggest pop stars in the world next to Justin Bieber, one of the biggest songs of our generation, you know, See You Again with Wiz Khalifa. And that was one of the dopest moments because, you know, he hopped in, he stayed for a couple people's songs. He actually engaged with me fully throughout the chat, you know, sent in his song 2 days prior to it dropping, you know, with the music video. So that was one of the biggest people to hop in. And, you know, I'm going to just keep going with it, keep building a community, keep getting out there, and just, you know, just keep helping artists. But that's basically what I've been up to, you know, the past year. Besides from making music, I've been just really focused on TikTok Live. Crazy event in the studio was back in 2018, Chris Webby ended up coming here to Syracuse, New York. And this is an artist that I've listened to since middle school. You know, I was big on the underground rap scene. And, you know, he came here to do a show in Syracuse. And I know Dynasty was a big fan of him at the time. And so basically I was meeting up with Dynasty at the show. Him and his girl were heading there. And then me and a couple of my buddies had tickets and we was meeting him at the show. And so I pull up to the Westcott Theater with a couple buddies of mine. We get out the car, and as we're heading into the theater, I get a phone call from Dino. And I pick it up, and he says, "Guess who's coming to the studio?" And I pause for a sec. I'm like, "Don't tell me Chris Webby's coming to the studio." And he says, "Yup, get your ass to the studio right now. Set up the microphone, set up the studio, make sure everything's clean, make sure everything's ready for Chris Webby." And I got my boys with me that I drove. I was the driver that night. I ended up having to bring them here. And they ended up, you know, Chris Webby's team wasn't allowing anybody else in the studio. So they ended up waiting in the parking lot for their mom to come pick them up. They couldn't end up coming inside. And so I whipped it here. I got in here. I set up the mic right behind us in the booth. And I got the studio ready. And what do you know? Chris Webby and his team pulls up to the studio. You know, Dino gets the chance to record Chris Webby. And like I said, this is one of my favorite artists growing up. This is Dino's favorite artist. So it was just a super surreal, super dope experience. You know, I was still the intern, but you know, I wasn't behind the board, but I still got to sit here. I still got to learn from an artist that I always listen to. I got to watch him in the booth and, you know, just see a professional artist in front of my eyes record. And the cool thing about it was, at the same time, Pete Davidson and MGK were here shooting Big Time Adolescence. And the song that Chris Webby was recording was a Pete Davidson collab. It was like an SNL smoking weed collab or something. I'm pretty sure it was SNL, and Chris Webby was doing the feature for it. So that was a pretty awesome part of it too. But just the whole experience, getting to be in here with him, and then, you know, taking off to the show, getting VIP at the Chris Webby show. We were in the green room with them the whole time. We got to spend the whole night with Chris and his team. So that was definitely a super dope studio moment.